Can you feel the excitement? The city of Portland, with 7,000 employees and 635,000 residents, is just 21 days away from beginning its change to a new form of government. A big part of that change will include a whole lot more city council members who will hopefully give you better representation. I mean, if you live in Portland anyway. So, what to expect from our new city council? That's our big story tonight. Now, I know we may be a little bit early to dive into all this. It's basically summertime right now, and most people probably not thinking about political campaigns, but you might bump into a candidate or two in Portland who wants to be part of the next city council. As of late last week, there are 68 people trying to win a total of 12 seats on the Portland City Council. That's a whole lot of people, and that's a big change from the current setup with just 4 seats. The new council members will not be starting from scratch, however. The city's new charter sets out some guidelines, and the interim city administrator, Mike Jordan, will help them get going. We're going to hear from him in a moment. But first, we must address the elephant in the room, spotlighted by a regular viewer from Toledo down in Lincoln County. Robert wrote in to say last week, after our last story with Mike Jordan, "Hey, what the heck? Did you run out of story ideas? You've repeated the same stuff several times over the past week with the same interview about the new Portland government structure. It's a nice bromance, but, you know, maybe time to move on?" Thanks for your email, Robert. And while it's not a bromance, I do have to admit I am kind of a fan of Mike Jordan. That's a fan of Mike Jordan. I think he's one of the solutions our city's been looking for. But look, let's be clear. These are not the same stories over and over again. These are stories about how Portland is changing. We're highlighting different aspects of what's to come. And we think it's huge, a really huge deal, to completely change the structure of Portland's government after more than 100 years. So come on, pay attention, Robert. Tonight, we're talking about the city changing with Mike Jordan, and we're going to talk about how the new city council is going to function.
Well, let's go back to basics. We'll have 12 elected councilors. They will be the legislative branch of the government. They will pass laws, they will pass policy, and they have the ultimate authority over budget. So that's their role to play. The mayor will be the executive. He or she will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of city government. They're required to hire a professional. Everybody reports to that professional except for the chief of police and the city attorney. And for being an elected official and having a loud voice, they will have that platform. I would expect that because we will have districts, we will have a caucus from each district on city council. I would expect on district issues, they will have a loud voice. On citywide issues, one might think the mayor might have a louder voice than most individual councilors, but they're individual legislators, they're elected by the people. They have a right to talk about whatever they think is important, and we want them to do that. We want it to be an active conversation with the public about what they think. The only way for the public to measure their performance is if they know what they're doing and what they care about and what they value. So they've got to have a loud voice with the public, and that's a big part of running this kind of a government, is that folks do interact, and it's a robust conversation. And I would bet that the 12-member council will probably have some discussions with themselves about what it takes to be a governing body. They'll have individual responsibilities, but they also have a responsibility as a collective. And they have, to some degree, a responsibility to each other to be effective for the city. And so I imagine that they will have some pretty good conversations about what does that mean. You know, city councils all over the place have conversations about, gee, we voted on something last week and Councilor so-and-so was out criticizing it in the newspaper the next week. What do we do about that? Well, those are important questions for a group of people to be effective, have to, at least to some degree, trust each other. And so those are hard questions. Every council has to deal with them, not just Portland. So I look for a lot of that kind of dialogue. And I look for people to talk to the media a lot about what they're thinking. Especially, I expect a lot of coverage, at least in those first few months, about how you doing, how do you like this, what about that? So there'll be a lot of that. And oh, by the way, that's the way it should be. So
yeah, it's a democracy.
Yep.
And oh yeah, you can bet we're going to be covering that a lot, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So counselors will no longer be making day-to-day decisions about how the bureaus operate. They will be focused on big picture policy to shape and guide the city. I asked Mike Jordan there what those first few days and weeks will be like for the council in 2025.
But January 2nd, they go to work. And they've got to run a meeting. They have to elect their council president in the first meeting. So we need to prepare them for that. And then I have every expectation that they will continue to do work sessions at least through the first year, just getting organized. And do we want committees? What subject matter do we want them? Who's going to be on them? How will they get staffed? And we're working on those things now. But at the end of the day, we can't really execute without their fingerprints on it. They have to believe in that structure and the way they're doing business. So it'll be a little bit of chaos, but we will be able to do business, no question, on January 2nd and on. And about this time a year from now, they're going to have to adopt another budget. And so come, like I would say, February, March-ish, we start talking, okay, let's prepare for the budget. Here are the issues. Here's what the history is. Here's where we think we're going. How can we work with you so the mayor's budget, when it shows up, is ready for you to deliberate on? And so that'll be a big deal in the first 6 months for them.
It might be a little wonky, but I just think that's fascinating. So now we know the first few months for the new Portland City Council might be a little bit chaotic as they try to get organized. And we've learned that the council members will have the ability to talk to the press about anything they want. I mean, it is the First Amendment. Although, who knows, the new council might adopt rules that discourage criticizing other council members to the public. We also know they will be organized by a council president, which is another wrinkle in this new government that will be worth paying attention to. As far as electing a council president, is that like in the bylaw somewhere?
No, it's in the charter.
Okay.
The charter says in the first
for that.
meeting each year, council will elect a council president. Now they can elect the same person year after year after year if they're doing a great job and everybody loves it. That's fine, but they have to go through the process of electing them.
And then what will the president do?
Well, they'll kind of be
spelled
the
out?
organizing person of council, so they'll help set the agenda and probably work with the mayor to make sure that executive branch stuff is coming to the legislative branch in an appropriate way. And that'll be a big conversation because the council, every council we've looked at bigger cities at this kind of size, they all have committees. Some of them have like a budget committee and an operations committee, but some of them have an economic development committee and a public works committee and a public safety committee. So it could align with the structure of the government. It could be subject matter in a different way. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's likely they'll have committees. And it'll be up to the council president to make sure that things are getting assigned to the committees in an appropriate way, and then they're coming back. They don't just die out there somewhere. And probably helping the council give direction to those committees. I could imagine that somebody might have an idea on council that, we don't even do that today. Nobody knows anything about it. And the council might refer the idea, let's say it's about public safety, refer it to the Public Safety Committee. The Public Safety Committee might do what congressional committees do and sometimes legislative committees. They go on the road, they hold hearings. They have an idea, they kind of have a staff report that tells people what the idea is, and then they take testimony. I could see them doing some of that kind of in the R&D category. And so it'll be interesting to see how they go about that. We've got some ideas. We've looked at other jurisdictions. We'll certainly give them some idea. You could organize this way.
As part of the onboarding.
Yeah, as part of onboarding. And then, but ultimately it'll be up to them and how they really want to do it. Yeah.
And the name of the game is 9 votes? Or 7?
7 votes to pass legislation, just a simple majority. But to remove the city administrator, it takes a supermajority.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be watching for that as well. And when the new council is in place, there will likely be a fair bit of jockeying as everyone tries to get policies passed that are going to help their part of town or go along with their point of view. And Jordan thinks that is going to force the city bureaucracy to move faster than ever. It will be fascinating to see, how it breaks. Is it geographical? Is it philosophical? Is it economic?
It will be fascinating to watch how how districts play, and because a district doesn't have enough votes to pass anything, so then it becomes, okay, how are we going to do this? And the other thing that we're thinking about is, how do you be responsive to what we know will be districts
that
wanting
want things.
have
absolutely.
issues that are, they will say, unique to their district.
I got a street that needs to be paved. You got kids living on there.
That's a great one. I'm in East Portland. I'm in District 2, and I've been living on this street that doesn't even have pavement. It's a gravel
20
road.
years. I'm paying my
20 years.
taxes.
When are we going to get this fixed? We're trying to develop a structure where the city will be responsive to those things. In other words, we will actually, in real time, be able to take the question, whatever it is, and give it a response. In something like that, it might be, you're absolutely right, but PBOT has a schedule for street repair, and you're 10 years away, or whatever it is, Or it might be, my neighbor's fence is well over 6 feet tall, and it's a pain in the ass, and why don't you come fix it? And send out an inspector and, give them and we might be able to send an inspector the next day.
Okay.
So responsiveness is not always saying yes, but it is being responsive and saying why it can't be right now or whatever. We want to do that because we know from history, and it will only be enhanced by districts, that citizens go judge shopping.
Oh, sure.
If they can't get the answer they want from one bureau, they'll call a different bureau, or they'll call somebody else, or they'll call their brother-in-law, or they'll call somebody. We want to be responsive and yet not run 4 cities.
Yeah.
That's really the balancing point. We have to think about the whole city, there's no question. But we also want to be responsive, because we know people they're going to have a caucus on city council, right? So we need to be responsive as an organization and be able to talk to city council about why we responded the way we did to their district's issue. So,
but that makes sense. I find that people at least are more satisfied knowing they've been heard.
Oh, absolutely.
There's been an answer. They can disagree with the answer, but at least they got an answer.
Well, yes, and the more kind of, I guess it would be a duh thing if you thought about it, and that is, if we don't have a good answer, we've got a problem. And we should recognize that. And if we're giving them a answer, they'll smell it in a minute,
right? First
of all. And secondly, we need to fix something inside our organization if we can't be responsive to people, even if the answer is no, and why. And if it's not a good why, then okay, let's rethink this.
Yeah, or sometimes, we get questions all the time from our viewers, and sometimes the answer is, I don't know, I've never even thought of that. Let me go find out.
Absolutely, every once in a while it's, holy smokes, I never thought about that.
That's a good
We should look into that.
Yeah,
that happens too.
It's going to be fun to see how it changes.
A fascinating exercise in individual and group psychology.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So what do you think, Robert? Did you make it all the way through today's discussion? We'd love everyone to share your thoughts about Portland's big government change. Remember, the soft launch is exactly 3 weeks away on July 1st. You could email us. Doesn't matter whether you live in the city of Portland or not, or whether you're watching this live or on YouTube. Let us know what you think. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090.